Far away from Earth, in a galaxy filled with stars and mysteries, there lived many alien races. They had built great empires, explored distant planets, and created technologies beyond imagination. But one thing puzzled them all: a legend about beings called humans. No one knew if humans were real or just a story made up long ago. Kale Valon was an archaeologist who worked for the Zenari Dominion, a powerful empire known for its advanced science and love of history. Kale spent most of his days digging through ruins on forgotten planets, searching for clues about ancient civilizations. He loved uncovering secrets that others thought were lost forever. One day, Kale received news of an uncharted planet at the edge of the galaxy. It was said to hold strange artifacts buried deep beneath its surface. Excited by the chance to find something new, Kale packed his tools and set off on a small ship to explore the mysterious world. When he arrived, the planet looked barren and lifeless. Its red sand stretched endlessly under a dim orange sun. But Kale wasn't discouraged. He activated his scanner and began walking across the rocky terrain. After hours of searching, the device beeped loudly. Something was buried nearby. Using his excavation equipment, Kyle carefully dug into the ground. Slowly, pieces of metal and stone emerged. At first glance, they seemed like ordinary debris, broken fragments of machines and crumbling walls. But as Kyle brushed away the dirt, he noticed strange symbols carved into the objects. These markings didn't match any language used by the Zenari Dominion or other alien races. Intrigued, Kale took the artifacts back to his ship to study them further. Using a translation program, he tried to decipher the symbols. Days passed, without success. The symbols resisted all attempts to unlock their meaning. Frustrated but determined, Kyle kept working. Finally, after weeks of effort, the program cracked part of the code. The symbols described a race of beings called humans. According to the text, humans were once the dominant species on a blue-green planet called Earth. They were intelligent and creative, capable of building incredible things. Yet they were also fragile, prone to conflict and destructive toward their own home. The artifacts hinted that humanity had disappeared suddenly, leaving behind only whispers of their existence. Over time, even those whispers faded, turning humans into myths told around campfires on distant worlds. Kyle couldn't believe what he was reading. Could humans really have existed? And if so, where did they go? The questions swirled in his mind, driving him to dig deeper. He shared his findings with his colleagues back at the Dominion's headquarters. Most dismissed his work as fanciful nonsense. Humans are just legends, they said. Why waste your time chasing ghosts? But Kale refused to give up. He believed the artifacts held a truth worth uncovering. So he continued his research, alone, piecing together more fragments of the puzzle. As weeks turned into months, Kale discovered additional clues pointing to humanity's presence in the galaxy. One artifact mentioned a star system near the outer rim, a place no one had visited in centuries. Another spoke of ships traveling faster than light, carrying humans across vast distances. Then, something unexpected happened. Strange energy signals began appearing near the edge of the galaxy. Ships patrolling the border reported seeing flashes of light moving rapidly through space. No one could explain what these signals meant, but they were unlike anything recorded before. Kale felt a surge of excitement. Could the signals be connected to his discoveries about humans? Was it possible that humanity hadn't vanished completely? Maybe they were still out there waiting to return. Determined to find answers, Kale requested permission to investigate the source of the signals. His superiors reluctantly agreed, though they doubted anything significant would come of it. Armed with his notes and equipment, Kale boarded a scout vessel and headed toward the unknown. The journey took several days. As Kale approached the area where the signals originated, he grew nervous. What would he find? Would it confirm his theories about humans, or prove them wrong? When he arrived, he saw nothing unusual at first. Just empty space, dotted with stars. But then his instruments detected faint traces of energy lingering in the void. It was weak, almost undetectable, but unmistakably artificial. Kyle scanned the area thoroughly, collecting data and analyzing patterns. Slowly, a picture began to form. Whatever had caused the signals wasn't natural, it was technological. Someone, or something, had been here recently. Though he found no physical evidence, Kyle left the region convinced that humanity might not be a myth after all. Somewhere out there, perhaps hidden among the stars, humans still existed. All he needed to do was keep looking. Back at the Dominion, Kyle pored over his findings again and again. His theories gained little support, but he didn't care. Deep down, he knew he was onto something big, something that could change everything. And somewhere far beyond the galaxy's edge, a fleet of ships sailed silently through the darkness, carrying survivors of a lost civilization. Their destination? The heart of the Zinari Dominion. Little did Kale know, his search for the truth was about to collide with a reality more astonishing than he ever imagined. Kale returned to the Zinari Dominion headquarters with his findings. Though he had no concrete proof of humanity's existence, his theories about the energy signals sparked cautious interest among some scientists. However, most leaders dismissed his claims as wild speculation. Energy readings can mean anything, they argued. It doesn't prove humans are real. Despite their skepticism, Kyle couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was approaching. The strange signals continued to appear near the outer rim of the galaxy, growing stronger and more frequent. Ships patrolling the border reported seeing flashes of light moving faster than any known vessel. Some even claimed to have spotted shadowy shapes gliding through space. The Dominion's military commanders weren't taking chances. They dispatched a fleet of warships to investigate the phenomenon. Among them was Captain Lorana Voss, a seasoned officer known for her sharp instincts and tactical brilliance. Her orders were clear: identify the source of the signals and neutralize any potential threat. Meanwhile, Kale requested permission to join the mission. He argued that his expertise might help interpret whatever they found. After much debate, the Dominion agreed, though reluctantly. They assigned him to Captain Voss's flagship, where he would serve as an advisor rather than a soldier. As the fleet approached the edge of the galaxy, everyone braced themselves for the unknown. Tension filled the air aboard the ships. Officers whispered theories about what they might encounter. Some believed it was rogue aliens testing Dominion borders. Others feared it could be an ancient weapon left behind by a long-extinct civilization. Then, one day it happened. The scanners detected a massive formation of ships emerging from hyperspace. At first glance, the vessels seemed sleek and unfamiliar. Their designs were unlike anything the Dominion had ever seen. Graceful curves blended seamlessly with advanced technology. Each ship shimmered faintly, as if cloaked in a protective aura. Captain Voss ordered her crew to establish communication immediately. "Hail them," she commanded. "Let's find out who they are." But the response came not in words but in action. The mysterious fleet halted just outside Dominion territory, holding its position without aggression. Then, after several tense minutes, one of the ships broadcast a message, not in the Dominion's language but in dozens of others. Ancient tongues, forgotten dialects, and even primitive codes filled the transmission. And then, a single phrase repeated over and over, loud and clear: "We are here. We are human." The bridge erupted into chaos. Crew members exchanged shocked glances. Human? Could it really be true? The very idea defied centuries of belief that humans were nothing more than myths. Kale stood frozen, his heart pounding. All his research, all his theories, it was finally coming together. Humans weren't legends, they were real. And now, they had arrived. Captain Voss regained control of her crew and demanded silence. "Analyze the transmission," she ordered. "Find out everything you can." While technicians worked feverishly to decode the message, Kyle stepped forward. "I think I know what this means," he said quietly. All eyes turned to him. "Explain yourself," Voss snapped. Kale took a deep breath. "For months I've been studying artifacts that mention humans. According to those records, humans were once a dominant species on a planet called Earth, but they disappeared thousands of years ago, or so we thought. Now it seems they've returned." Voss frowned. If they're real, why come back now? And why send such a vague message? Before Kale could answer, the lead ship from the mysterious fleet launched a smaller craft. It moved swiftly toward the Dominion fleet, stopping just within visual range. A holographic image flickered to life above the craft, a figure dressed in a simple uniform, standing tall and confident. "I am Captain Alara Solis of the Eos Vanguard," the figure announced. Her voice was calm but firm. "We represent the remnants of humanity. Our people have traveled across the stars for generations, searching for a new home. We seek peaceful relations with your kind." Her words stunned everyone. Humanity wasn't extinct. They were survivors. Survivors who had endured unimaginable hardships to reach this moment. Captain Voss hesitated before responding. "Why should we trust you? How do we know you're truly human?" Alara smiled faintly. "Because our history is written in the stars. Because fragments of our past remain scattered throughout this galaxy. Fragments you may already possess." Kale's mind raced. She was referring to the artifacts he'd discovered. The symbols, the stories, the clues pointing to humanity's existence. Somehow these humans knew about his work. "We'll need proof," Voss insisted. "Evidence that confirms your claims." Alara nodded. "We anticipated your doubts. Allow us to share our story. Let us show you who we are and why we've come." With that, the hologram vanished, and the small craft retreated to the safety of the human fleet. Back aboard her flagship, Captain Voss convened an emergency meeting with her officers, including Kale, to decide their next move. "This changes everything," one officer muttered. "If they're telling the truth, we're dealing with beings we barely understand. And if they're lying," another countered, "what if this is a trick to infiltrate our borders?" Kyle listened silently, weighing both sides. He wanted to believe Alara's words. Everything aligned with his research, the timing, the technology, the sheer audacity of their arrival. But he also understood the risks. Trusting strangers could put the entire Dominion in danger. In the end, Voss made the call. "We'll meet them halfway," she declared, "but only under strict conditions. No weapons, limited personnel, and constant surveillance." A neutral zone was established between the two fleets. Representatives from each side gathered aboard. A derelict asteroid station, chosen for its isolation and lack of strategic value. Kale accompanied the Dominion delegation, eager to witness history unfold. When the humans arrived, Kale felt a mix of awe and unease. They looked different from the aliens he'd grown up with. Shorter, frailer, yet undeniably resilient. Their faces bore expressions of hope and determination, tempered by years of hardship. Alara led the human delegation. She greeted the Dominion representatives with a respectful nod. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with us," she said. "We mean no harm. We simply wish to coexist." Over the next few hours, Alara shared her people's story. Thousands of years ago, humanity had thrived on Earth, but their success came at a cost. Wars, pollution, and greed destroyed their planet, forcing them to flee into space. For centuries, they drifted through the cosmos in cryosleep, searching for a place to rebuild. "But why return now?" Voss asked. "Why reveal yourselves after all this time?" Alara's gaze hardened slightly. "Because we ran out of options. Our resources are dwindling. Our ships are failing. If we don't find a new home soon, our species will perish. We hoped the Zenari Dominion would welcome us, as allies, not enemies." Her honesty struck a chord with Kale. These humans weren't invaders, they were refugees. Yet not everyone shared his sympathy. Some Dominion leaders viewed them as a threat, fearing their advanced technology and uncertain intentions. Tensions simmered as negotiations dragged on. Despite Alara's efforts to reassure the Dominion, mistrust lingered. Meanwhile, Kyle found himself drawn to the humans' plight. He began secretly sharing insights with Alara, helping her navigate the complexities of Dominion politics, but peace wasn't guaranteed. Rumors spread of factions within the Dominion plotting against the humans. Some believed diplomacy was pointless, that humanity posed too great a risk to ignore. As days passed, the fragile truce grew thinner. Kale sensed disaster looming on the horizon. Something had to give. Either the Dominion would embrace humanity or destroy them. Little did anyone realize the true test of trust was yet to come. The neutral asteroid station buzzed with activity as negotiations continued. The humans and the Xenari Dominion sat across from each other, their discussions filled with cautious words and guarded expressions. Captain Alara Solis spoke calmly, explaining her people's needs and offering peace. She promised that humanity would bring innovation and cooperation to the galaxy if given a chance. But not everyone was convinced. Some Dominion leaders whispered among themselves, casting suspicious glances at the human delegation. "They're too desperate," one muttered. "Desperation makes them dangerous." Others argued that humanity's advanced technology could tip the balance of power in the galaxy. What if they used it against the Dominion? Kale listened to both sides, torn between his loyalty to the Dominion and his growing respect for the humans. He admired Alara's determination and honesty. These weren't invaders. They were survivors trying to rebuild their lives. Yet he couldn't ignore the fear spreading through the Dominion ranks. Alara noticed Kale's hesitation during one of the meetings. Afterward, she approached him privately. "You understand us better than most," she said quietly. "Help us prove we mean no harm." Kale hesitated. "I want to believe you," he admitted. "But my people are scared. Fear leads to mistakes." Alara nodded. "Then help us bridge the gap. Show them we're not their enemy." Kale agreed reluctantly. He began working behind the scenes, sharing insights about Dominion culture with Alara and her team. He advised them on how to present their case more effectively, hoping to ease tensions. For a brief moment, it seemed like progress was possible. The humans offered samples of their technology, advanced energy systems, medical tools, and sustainable farming methods. These gifts amazed the Dominion scientists, who saw potential for collaboration. Some even started advocating for peaceful coexistence. But not everyone shared this optimism. A faction within the Dominion, led by General Dax Torin, viewed the humans as a threat that needed to be eliminated. Torin was a hardened warrior who believed in strength above all else. To him, humanity's arrival wasn't an opportunity. It was a challenge to the Dominion's supremacy. "We can't trust them," Torin declared in a closed-door meeting. "Their so-called peace is just a ploy. Once they gain our confidence, they'll turn on us." His arguments gained traction among the military elite. Whispers of rebellion spread through the fleet. Soon, Torin had gathered enough support to act independently. Ignoring Captain Voss's orders, he launched a surprise attack on the human fleet. It happened without warning. Torin's ships fired plasma cannons at the human vessels, shattering the fragile truce. Explosions lit up the void as shields flared, and hulls cracked. The humans fought back fiercely, deploying weapons far beyond anything the Dominion had seen before. Kale watched in horror from the asteroid station as chaos erupted outside. The screen showed flashes of light and debris swirling through space. Both sides suffered losses, but the humans held their ground. Their ships moved with precision, countering every attack with devastating accuracy. Captain Voss tried to regain control, ordering Torin to stand down. But the general refused. "This is war now," he growled, "and I won't let sentiment get in the way of victory." Back aboard the human flagship, Alara faced a crisis of her own. Her crew demanded retaliation, urging her to unleash the full might of their fleet. But Alara resisted. "We didn't come here to conquer," she reminded them. "We came to survive. Killing won't solve anything." Her restraint infuriated some, but others respected her decision. For now, the humans focused on defending themselves rather than escalating the conflict. Amidst the chaos, Kale realized he had to make a choice. Staying neutral was no longer an option. If he sided with the Dominion, he risked betraying everything he'd learned about humanity. But if he helped the humans, he'd be branded a traitor. In the end, his conscience won out. Kyle sneaked away from the asteroid station and boarded a shuttle bound for the human fleet. When he arrived, Ilara greeted him with a mixture of surprise and suspicion. "You're taking a big risk coming here," she said. "I know," Kyle replied, "but I believe in what you're fighting for. I want to help." Ilara studied him carefully before nodding. "All right, but understand, one wrong move, and my people will see you as an enemy." Kyle accepted the terms. Over the next few days, he worked tirelessly to assist the humans. Using his knowledge of Dominion tactics, he helped them anticipate attacks and strengthen their defenses. His contributions turned the tide of the battle slightly in humanity's favor. Meanwhile, back in the Dominion fleet, Captain Voss struggled to contain the situation. Torin's rebellion had fractured the military, leaving her with limited resources. She reached out to Kale, desperate for answers. "Why did you leave?" she demanded over a secure channel. "I couldn't stay silent while innocent people were attacked," Kale replied. "You know as well as I do that this war is wrong." Voss sighed. "Maybe you're right, but stopping it won't be easy." As the fighting dragged on, Kale uncovered something shocking, a secret buried deep within Dominion archives. It was a classified report detailing ancient contact with Earth thousands of years ago. According to the document, the Dominion had visited Earth long before its collapse. They observed humanity's rise, fascinated by their ingenuity and creativity. But when humans began developing advanced technology, the Dominion grew fearful. They decided to abandon Earth, leaving humanity to fend for itself. Over time, memories of Earth faded, turning into myths. Kale confronted Voss with the evidence. "Your ancestors betrayed humanity," he accused. "They left them to die. Is that why you're so afraid of them now?" Voss looked shaken. "I had no idea." "This changes everything," Kale insisted. "If the truth gets out, it could destroy the Dominion's reputation, or unite us with the humans." Voss hesitated, weighing the implications. Finally, she made a decision. "We need to end this war, not just for the humans, for ourselves." Together, Kale and Voss devised a plan to stop Torin and negotiate a ceasefire. They leaked the classified report to key Dominion leaders, exposing the truth about Earth. Public outrage forced Torin to retreat, ending his rebellion. With Torin neutralized, peace talks resumed. This time the atmosphere was different. The humans and the Dominion approached each other with newfound understanding. Ilara acknowledged the Dominion's fears, while Voss apologized for their past betrayal. "It's time to heal old wounds," Voss said. "Let's build a future together instead of repeating the mistakes of the past." Ilara nodded. "Agreed. Let's start fresh." Though tensions remained, hope began to blossom. For the first time, humanity and the Dominion stood side by side, ready to face the challenges ahead. But Kale knew the road to peace wouldn't be easy. Trust took years to earn, and seconds to break. Still, he felt a spark of optimism. Maybe, just maybe, two ancient enemies could become allies. The ceasefire was fragile, held together by little more than shared exhaustion and reluctant trust. Both sides had suffered losses during the conflict, and neither could afford another war. But beneath the surface, anger and suspicion simmered. The humans still didn't fully trust the Dominion, and many within the Dominion saw humanity as a lingering threat. Kale knew that peace wouldn't last unless the root of the tension was addressed. He had uncovered the classified report about the Dominion's ancient betrayal of Earth, but he also realized there was more to the story. If humanity was to truly coexist with the Dominion, they needed to understand why they had been abandoned all those centuries ago. With Captain Voss's reluctant blessing, Kale began digging deeper into the Dominion's archives. What he found shocked him to his core. The forgotten experiment, long before recorded history, the Zenari Dominion had stumbled upon Earth entirely by accident. At the time, the Dominion was a young empire, eager to explore the universe and catalog its wonders. When they discovered humanity, They were fascinated. Humans were unlike any species they had encountered, fragile, yet incredibly adaptable. They showed flashes of brilliance, creating art, technology, and complex societies despite their short lifespans. Intrigued, the Dominion decided to observe humanity closely. They planted subtle influences on Earth, leaving behind fragments of advanced knowledge disguised as natural discoveries. These gifts accelerated human development, guiding them toward greater achievements. For a while, it seemed like a successful experiment. But then came the unintended consequences. As humanity grew stronger, they also became more dangerous. Wars broke out across Earth, fueled by greed and ambition. Weapons of mass destruction devastated entire regions. The planet itself began to suffer under humanity's relentless exploitation. Forests burned, oceans choked with waste, and the air turned toxic. The Dominion watched in dismay as their experiment spiraled out of control. Fearful of what might happen if humans gained access to interstellar travel, they made a fateful decision: abandon Earth and erase all traces of their involvement. "They left us to die," Kyle whispered to himself as he read through the files. The Dominion hadn't just walked away. They had actively sabotaged humanity's progress, ensuring they couldn't follow or retaliate. It was a calculated act of abandonment, cloaked in silence. Kale felt sick. His own people, the civilization he had always admired, had committed an unspeakable crime. And now, thousands of years later, humanity had returned, unaware of the truth behind their suffering. Sharing the truth. Kale knew he couldn't keep this secret. Humanity deserved to know what had happened to them, and why. But telling them would be risky. If Captain Alara Solis learned the truth, would she see it as proof of the Dominion's cruelty? Would it reignite the flames of war? He wrestled with the decision for days, torn between loyalty to his people and justice for humanity. In the end, he chose honesty. If peace was ever going to work, it had to be built on truth, not lies. Kyle arranged a private meeting with Alara aboard her flagship. She greeted him cautiously, still unsure whether to fully trust him. "What is it this time?" she asked. "More secrets?" "Yes," Kyle admitted. "But this one changes everything." He handed her a data chip containing the full account of the Dominion's actions on Earth. Alara stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then, without a word, she inserted the chip into a console and began reading. As the truth unfolded before her eyes, Alara's face hardened. Her hands clenched into fists and her breathing grew shallow. By the time she finished, tears glistened in her eyes. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. "You abandoned us," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "You gave us knowledge, then took it away. You let us destroy ourselves." Kyle nodded. "I'm sorry, I didn't know until now. But you have every right to hate us." Alara looked at him, her gaze piercing. "Do you speak for your people, Kale? Or are you just one voice among many?" "I don't know," Kale admitted. "But I believe some of us want to make things right. That's why I told you. If we're going to move forward, we need to face the past." Alara was silent for a long moment. Finally, she sighed. "This will tear my crew apart. Some will want revenge, others will want answers. Either way, it won't be easy." "I understand," Kyle said. "But hiding the truth isn't the answer." Alara nodded slowly. "All right, we'll share this with our leaders, but don't expect forgiveness. Not yet." A divided galaxy, when the truth spread among the human fleet, reactions were mixed. Some called for immediate retaliation, demanding justice for Earth's suffering. Others argued that vengeance would only lead to more bloodshed. Captain Solis worked tirelessly to maintain order, reminding her people that their survival depended on unity, not division. Meanwhile, back in the Dominion, the revelation caused chaos. Public outrage erupted when the classified reports leaked to the media. Protest filled the streets of Dominion cities, with citizens calling for accountability. Military leaders scrambled to defend their actions, claiming the decision to abandon Earth had been necessary for the galaxy's safety. Captain Voss tried to mediate, urging both sides to focus on the future rather than dwell on the past. "We can't change what happened," she told her superiors, "but we can choose how we respond. Are we going to repeat our mistakes or learn from them?" Her words resonated with some but fell on deaf ears with others. General Torren, still bitter over his defeat, used the scandal to rally support for renewed aggression against the humans. He claimed that humanity's presence posed a permanent threat to the Dominion's stability. Tensions escalated once again, threatening to undo the fragile ceasefire. Skirmishes broke out along the border, with both sides accusing the other of provocation. It seemed inevitable that war would return. Kale's choice caught in the middle of the storm. Kale faced a choice. Should he stay with the Dominion, trying to convince his people to embrace peace? Or should he join humanity, standing with those who had suffered because of his ancestors' choices? In the end, Kale decided to side with humanity, not as a traitor, but as an ally. He believed that their survival depended on mutual understanding, and he wanted to help bridge the gap between the two civilizations. He smuggled critical information to the human fleet, revealing weaknesses in the Dominion's defenses and exposing Torren's plans. His actions earned him the trust of Captain Solis and her crew, though some remained wary of his motives. "Why are you doing this?" Ilara asked him one night as they prepared for the coming battle. "Because it's the right thing to do," Kyle replied, "and because I owe it to you, to humanity." Ilara studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Just remember, Kale, once this fight begins, there's no turning back." The final stand war finally broke out when Torren launched a massive assault on the human fleet. Dozens of ships clashed in a brutal battle, lighting up the void with explosions and energy blasts. The humans fought valiantly, using Kale's intel to counterattack effectively. But the Dominion's superior numbers put them at a disadvantage. Amidst the chaos, Kale stayed close to Ilara, helping coordinate strategies and boost morale. Together, they pushed back against Torren's forces, inching closer to victory, but the cost was high. Ships on both sides were destroyed, and countless lives were lost. As the battle raged on, Kale wondered if peace would ever be possible, or if hatred and mistrust would consume them all. Then, in a desperate move, Captain Solis made a sacrifice that changed everything. The battle raged across the void, a chaotic storm of fire and fury. Ships from both sides clashed violently, their weapons tearing through shields and hulls alike. Explosions lit up the darkness as debris spiraled into the endless expanse of space. The humans fought with everything they had, using Kale's intel to outmaneuver General Torren's forces. But despite their skill and determination, Torren's fleet was larger and more heavily armed. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn against them. Kale stood aboard the Eos Vanguard, watching the carnage unfold on the monitors. His heart pounded as he saw ship after ship fall victim to Torren's relentless assault. He felt powerless, unable to stop the destruction. Nearby, Captain Ilara Solis coordinated her crew with calm precision, barking orders and rallying morale even as the odds grew increasingly grim. "We can't hold much longer," one officer reported. "Our reserves are almost depleted." Ilara nodded grimly. She knew they were running out of options. If something didn't change soon, the human fleet would be annihilated, and with it, any hope of survival for her people. Then, an idea struck her, a desperate plan, but one that might just work. Turning to Kale, she said, "I need you to take control of the secondary command center. I'm going to lead the counterattack personally." "What?" Kale exclaimed. "You can't go out there alone." "I'm not alone," Ilara replied firmly. "I have my crew and I have faith in our mission. Trust me, Kale, this is the only way." Before he could protest further, Ilara grabbed a helmet and headed for the hangar bay. Moments later, she launched herself into the fray aboard a small, but heavily armed fighter craft. Her goal was clear: destroy Torren's flagship, the beating heart of his fleet. Without it, the Dominion's advantage would crumble. A hero's sacrifice, Ilara sped toward the enemy flagship, weaving through blasts and dodging pursuing fighters. Her movements were precise and calculated, drawing inspiration from years of training and leadership. Behind her, the human fleet rallied, launching a coordinated assault to distract Torrens' forces and give her time to reach her target. As she closed in on the flagship, anti-aircraft turrets opened fire, filling the space around her with deadly projectiles. Sparks flew as her shields absorbed hit after hit. Smoke filled her cockpit as alarms blared, warning of critical damage. Still, she pressed forward, refusing to relent. Finally, she reached her destination. With a final burst of speed, she guided her craft straight into the flagship's engine core. The impact triggered a massive explosion, engulfing the vessel in flames and sending shockwaves rippling through the battlefield. Torrens' fleet faltered as their command ship disintegrated before their eyes. Chaos erupted among the remaining ships, giving the human fleet the opening they needed to seize the upper hand. Under Kale's guidance, they regrouped and launched a decisive counteroffensive, driving the Dominion forces into retreat. But victory came at a cost. Alara Solis, brave, selfless, and determined, had given her life to ensure her people's survival. When the dust settled, the news spread quickly throughout the human fleet. Silence fell over the crew as they mourned their fallen captain, whose sacrifice had turned the tide of the battle. Kale felt a deep ache in his chest. Alara had trusted him, believed in him, and now she was gone. Yet her actions reminded him of why he had chosen to stand with humanity. She had shown courage and compassion, qualities that transcended species and united all sentient beings. Peace through loss. With Torrens' rebellion crushed, Captain Voss took charge of the surviving Dominion forces. She approached the human fleet, under a flag of truce, seeking to end the conflict once and for all. Kale accompanied her during the negotiations, acting as a mediator between the two sides. "This war has cost us too much," Voss began, addressing the human leaders. "We've lost good people on both sides. It's time to put down our weapons and find a path forward, together." The human delegation listened quietly, their expressions guarded. After a moment, one of Alara's lieutenants stepped forward. "Captain Solis gave her life so we could survive," he said. "Her dream was peace. We owe it to her memory to honor that dream." Voss nodded solemnly. "Then let us start anew. Let us build a future where humans and the Dominion coexist as equals." The terms of surrender were simple. The Dominion would provide resources and territory to help humanity establish a new colony. In return, humanity would share its advanced technology, fostering cooperation and mutual growth. Both sides agreed to form a joint council to oversee relations and prevent future conflicts. Kyle played a key role in drafting the agreement, ensuring that neither side exploited the other. His efforts earned him respect from both humans and the Dominion, bridging the gap between two civilizations that had once viewed each other as enemies. A brighter future months passed, and the scars of war began to heal. Humanity settled on a lush, unclaimed planet near the edge of the galaxy. They named it Solace, in honor of Captain Alara Solis. The land was fertile, the skies clear, and the oceans teeming with life, a perfect place to rebuild. Kyle chose to stay with the humans, finding a sense of purpose he had never experienced before. He worked alongside them, helping design sustainable cities and integrating Dominion technology with human ingenuity. Slowly but surely, trust grew between the two races. In time, stories of Alara's heroism spread far and wide. Monuments were erected in her name, and her legacy became a symbol of unity and resilience. Humans and the Dominion alike learned from her example, striving to create a world where cooperation triumphed over fear and hatred. As Kale stood on a hill overlooking the thriving colony of Solace, he felt a profound sense of hope. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but together they could overcome anything. "Thank you, Alara," he whispered to the stars, "for showing us what's possible." And somewhere beyond the galaxy's edge, the spirits of Earth's ancestors watched silently, proud of what their descendants had achieved.